He's editor-in-chief of Breitbart News and a New York Times best-selling author. And on this podcast, he brings deep research, prescient analysis, and world-class guests to a cutting-edge daily news broadcast focusing on America First politics, culture, and values. He's Alex Marlow, and this is The Alex Marlow Show.
It is Hawaiian Shirt Friday on The Alex Marlow Show. I'm bringing it back. Those of you from my SiriusXM audience know that I love to celebrate a Hawaiian Shirt Friday. It started out as an ironic joke, actually, because there was no video component. No one could see me, so it was totally irrelevant what color shirt I was wearing or what pattern. And there's an added joke there when I was on SiriusXM was that there are no SiriusXM satellites that hit the Hawaiian Islands. So if you're listening to Hawaii, you can do it on the app, but it's not really a Hawaii-centric business. If you find that funny or not funny, I just did it. I rolled with it for a long time. And now the pressure's on because I will be doing shows on video every Friday. So on Rumble and YouTube. Thanks to everyone who subscribed. I'm getting wonderful emails at aloha@alexmarlow.com. We'll get to some of those later in the broadcast. And view counts are massive on Rumble, 27,000 on the most recent episode. Really nice numbers on YouTube. Also, we cracked the top 100 podcasts for Apple News already. So one episode in, I think that was just based off of the first episode. So getting some nice feedback from all of you, and it means a lot. And we're going to be here for you 5 days a week. We're committed to this. This is going to be good. Unfortunately, I start a joyous week with a unfortunate and very upsetting story out of Amsterdam, where a football match between the Ajax soccer team versus Israel's Maccabi Tel Aviv team, which seems as a low risk in terms of football violence, which is a thing across Europe and the Middle East and other places. But it was supposed to be a good-natured match, and it was not. It turned into widespread targeting attacks by anti-Israeli rioters. This occurred Thursday night, and it's been branded as a pogrom, which is essentially a big league hate crime, targeting Israelis. As far as we know, as of now, there's been dozens of people injured. I don't see any death toll reported. I imagine there's a very good chance it goes up. But Dutch security forces appeared unable to protect tourists who were then ambushed by roaming gangs of masked attackers. And they shouted "Free Palestine" as they hunted and beat and brutally harassed Israelis. We have all this reporting up at Breitbart News and our London bureau, where we are very dialed in. We have an amazing London bureau there. It looks like it was a Jew hunt that took place in the streets, arrests and deportations of the multicultural scum that attacked the Maccabi Tel Aviv supporters in our streets is up next, according to Geert Wilders, who's the leader of the country, who is a populist who's deeply pro-Israel. Wilders also is a columnist for Breitbart News, and I'm anticipating an exclusive piece for him at some point. I can imagine he's pretty busy today, but we're anticipating we're going to hear from him exclusively, and I will try to highlight that for all of you next week, assuming it comes in. But check it out at Breitbart.com. He continued, "A shame that this can happen in the Netherlands, totally unacceptable." It is fortunate that we have him as the leader of the country because of the fact that he is pro-Israel, but also deeply connected with the populist nationalist grassroots. That's really, I think, been the most profound political movement in the West. But they have a left-wing mayor, a far-left mayor, calls for him to resign for presiding over the first pogroms in Europe since the Second World War, is how it's being branded. Taxi drivers have been cited as being involved several times in various press conferences. But the bottom line is police were unable to counter hit-and-run squads of quote-unquote boys on mopeds who vanished as soon as the attack occurred. The word is Moroccan Dutch people are responsible. And the left-wing mayor Femke Halsema has responded by saying what the ethnicity and the nationalities of these people is. I can't say something specific about this, and I don't want to. No kidding. The Israeli government has sent flights to bring the football fans home. And in recent months, Europe cities have refused to host home matches against Israel, and they have been played in Hungary instead. And part of this is probably for this reason, is they're afraid that the pro-Palestinian radicals are going to get violent. I will tell you this from my experience at UC Berkeley in particular. I was always stunned by the pro-Palestine, but really pro-Hamas crowd. We got the impression that a lot of the grassroots of the pro-Palestine left was funded by Hamas directly. They were the loudest, most vocal, most numerous group of any left-wing group that was there. This was 20 years ago when I was a Berkeley student. It was a real coming-of-age moment for me to understand this. These people are dead serious. They live by a by any means necessary creed, and it is not a surprise that we're seeing this level of violence. Not to say everyone who considers himself pro-Palestine, so to speak, is like this, but this is a commonality across the West, and it's very, very disturbing. This is Ajax Amsterdam is historically a culturally Jewish team that fans have embraced. Jewish symbols, they've used Jewish symbols and mascots, and the game was supposed to be quite friendly. Clearly did not turn out that way. Mobs went into hotels to attack people. So originally, Netanyahu had ordered a military rescue and then downgraded it to civilian fights to bring Israelis home. So Joel Pollack from Breitbart, who is our top guy in terms of tracking what's going on in Israel, has said that we don't know who started it, but there are reports that apparently some Jews burned a Palestinian flag. But obviously this was a massive escalation and innocent people were targeted, and it wasn't just anyone who was rabble-rousing ahead of time. So the sports-related violence, never something I completely understood. So bad start to the day, unfortunately, but important to report that because, again, we're going to lead with the news here on the Alex Marlow Show. That's the biggest thing. And then we will have fun if time permits. All right. Next biggest stuff, I want to get you updated on the latest in the election and what we're seeing. So the biggest thing for me, I would say overnight that came in is David McCormick appears to have won in Pennsylvania. This is a race that we've never done this before, Breitbart News. First time we've ever done this. We called the race first. No one had called this race. We had called it first. We felt like we were getting enough information from various sources within Pennsylvania to feel confident that this thing was done, signed, sealed, and delivered for David McCormick. McCormick is a absolutely fascinating character. He's a West Point graduate. He's an Army veteran. And he went on to run one of the world's largest hedge funds, Bridgewater Associates, and other major business ventures as well. But this guy is a true killer. He ran for Senate in 2022. It was a really tight race, and he ended up just losing out to Dr. Oz, who had a big flood of celebrity support on his behalf. Narrowly won. That was really a primary that had three tight candidates, and Dr. Oz, of course, lost to John Fetterman, who became my favorite senator in the U.S. Senate. And I won't tell you how much of that is being ironic, and I'll tell you it's not 100% ironic. But John Fetterman won that race, who is a model. We should all emulate John Fetterman. He only wears hoodies. He can barely speak. He's had a stroke, and he still goes to work for the Democrats, and he's willing to call out his party from time to time. This is a model for all senators. All senators should be like John Fetterman. I wish his politics were slightly better, though he's certainly not the worst among Democrats. But anyway, sometimes I feel like maybe he was meant to win. Maybe Oz really never had a chance. But anyway, McCormick lost narrowly in that primary, and he appears to have beat out Bob Casey. A huge takedown because it is a man who was seen as a Biden ally. So Casey's been in there, I think it was 3 terms, top part of the Biden coalition. And the un-Bidenification of Pennsylvania is a beautiful thing to see. And with David McCormick, you're talking about a top-level American. I mean, this is the creme de la creme of what we have. Now, I will caution you. I'm not sure he's politically pure. I don't know him very well. This is someone that most of my information, McCormick, comes from Matt Boyle. But I will tell you, he's done some things that are super smart. The first thing is he has been incredibly communicative with Breitbart News, and he's been this way since 2022. He's understood that a lot of the grassroots goes through us. A lot of the voting base goes through us, and he wants to communicate with us early and often. And that is sign number one that he is paying attention. And of course, it's self-aggrandizing, and I want to promote Breitbart, and I want to promote all the stuff I do day to day leading that newsroom. But I fundamentally believe that the Breitbart virtual newsroom is where a lot of the ideas begin to percolate in this movement, and it goes from there. And for him to recognize that, super smart guy, super decorated guy, super wealthy guy, to understand that, I think is big. He's got a wife named Dina Powell, who might be familiar to you because she was seen as a close ally with Gary Cohn, the arch globalist, who was one of the top economic guys in Trump's first administration and a whipping boy for us at Breitbart News. I famously would put up a globalist emoji, a world emoji, one of those, this globe looks like planet Earth. Whenever I would cover him at Breitbart News to signify that he wasn't really representing the United States, he was representing the world. Dina Powell was a close ally of his. That's McCormick's wife. And still, he gets the picture. So I feel like we're at a moment, I'm feeling magnanimous, I'm feeling generous, and I'm feeling optimistic that it is now time to embrace the huge tent. It is important to solidify those America First values, but we do it by conversion. We don't do it by necessarily bludgeoning people out of existence. It's time to reach out to all those people and to try to bring them to our side. And so I don't know if McCormick is going to be as pure of as a J.D. Vance, let's say ideologically. He's probably not. But I will tell you, I think he knows how to get ahead in Donald Trump's America. That's by courting the Breitbart vote. And I admire that. And I respect his career to this point. So I couldn't be more excited about this. And he took out a really worthy adversary in Bob Casey. So that is great news. But is it over yet? This is the big question, because we just got word it may not be over yet, because we are learning that Mark Elias, who is the head lawfare activist on the Democratic left, he's now deploying lawyers all over Pennsylvania, according to reports, and they're going to be trying to challenge every single ballot they can, whether it's a signature that didn't work or an ID that wasn't properly registered. He's going to do all this, and Elias himself is tweeting about this. He's a loudmouth on Twitter, or on X, I think as it is known now, if I'm not mistaken. So pay attention to that. But they have all of this money, all of these lawyers, all these resources ready to engage in lawfare. And this feels like their target number one. Now, all of our sources are suggesting the margin is well in hand. But Elias is a tricky guy, and he's gotten more scalps for the Democrats than just about anyone else. So that adds to that adds to what's going on there. And what I find to be noteworthy in all of this is that all of the same people, a lot of the same people, who are suggesting that any questioning of the 2020 election, and perhaps that maybe those votes weren't all legitimate, all of these people are going to want to go and suggest that the 2024 election in the Senate, that this was illegitimate. I hope all these people are branded as insurrectionist and as anti-democratic and as conspiracy nuts, and they should all be thrown out of public life. Or we can just make fun of them. Either way, both are good for me, but it is deliciously ironic that that is what we're going to witness. And there's a lot of delicious stuff today to come up on the show. But that's a big one, so we had to keep a close eye on that, but it looks like more good news there. All right, next big thing. The appointment of Susie Wiles as the chief of staff in the White House is one of the most important positions in the White House. And Wiles is a person I don't know at all, to be frank with you. She's another Matt Boyle contact. They're actually neighbors in northeastern Florida. So Matt's our Washington political editor and a font of MAGA knowledge for me, and I benefit from his wisdom greatly day to day at the Breitbart newsroom. And here's what I know about Wiles: is her reputation is that she keeps the trains running on time. And the role of the chief of staff is essentially as a gatekeeper, making sure things get done, making sure people are held accountable, making sure people don't miss their marks. And it sounds like she's got a good personality for that. I'm told she's smart. I'm told she's tough. And the other people who were up for the job had, I think, a lot of strengths, but not necessarily that would make them clear-cut favorites. Kevin McCarthy was another one who was late in discussions. I had a feeling it wasn't going to be him because I didn't think McCarthy had enough time to make money, to be honest with you. That's just God's honest truth. He was in the Congress for a very long time. You might recall that he was one of the young guns, him and Paul Ryan and Eric Cantor way back in the day. And he just got out of the Congress. And I think he's got to have time to make some money before he wants to go back to Washington. That was my guess. That's how he would feel. And so I didn't think he would get the first choice. He's also more of a showboat than President Trump probably would like in that role. Not to say that's a problem. I was one of the people in MAGA country who thought it was a mistake to oust him. I think that's looking pretty good. I think Mike Johnson wouldn't have been as effective as McCarthy would have been if he had been left in there. But people had various vendettas, and those were carried out. McCarthy was ousted, and he was one of the guys who was going to be up for chief of staff. Probably the third in the group that I'm going to name. And the person who I think was probably the runner-up was a woman named Brooke Rollins. Rollins runs something called the America First Policy Institute. As far as I can tell, she does good work. I had one meeting with Brooke in the White House the first time around. She's very poised, very smart, very ambitious, capable, all that stuff. She'll be around for a while. I'm sure that she'll be in the running if and eventually when Susie Wiles moves on. She was a close ally with Jared Kushner and Ivanka Trump in the original Trump White House, which makes me skeptical. But also, Jared came around, did some amazing stuff towards the end of the administration with the Abraham Accords in particular, and helping revamp the trade deals that essentially replaced NAFTA. Those were huge wins for him that I think righted some of the what I would perceive as wrongs in the first half of the administration. So that doesn't necessarily mean she would have been a bad pick. I think she could have been potentially been a good pick. But Wiles just had that resume, being the person who had shepherded Donald Trump's masterful campaign, a masterful campaign, if there ever was one. It was a dominant performance when I think a lot of Democrats woke up on the morning of November the 5th and they believed that they were going to win in a rout, and Donald Trump won with more electoral votes than he won against Hillary Clinton and winning the popular vote. So Susie Wiles was at the forefront of that. And so you're going to get rewarded. So if she wanted this job, then I'm not shocked that she got it. So from what I'm to understand, that she's not a deeply ideological conservative. So she's going to need to be monitored. She's going to need to be monitored by us, by you in the audience. We're going to have to hold her accountable. But as far as I can tell, that her not having an ideology could work out. It could not work out. I'll tell you what I'm worried about. I'm worried that since she'll be a gatekeeper for who's going to be meeting with the president, who's going to be spending time with the president, if this means that you're going to be getting a lot of Sundar Pichai in there, a lot of Jeff Bezos in there, a lot of Mark Zuckerberg in there, people who are impressive people but don't share our worldview, and those are the people who are going to be bending Trump's ear and convincing him on policy because they're powerful and impressive, that's where problems could happen, because those people have the best interests of themselves and their corporations at heart, more so than the American public. Now, I've left Musk out of that group because Musk is starting to convince me that he does care about things beyond himself and his companies. More on that later, much more on that later, I'm sure. But I want to make sure, if I have any say in the matter, and hopefully we do, that Donald Trump is spending as much time as possible with people who are more purely of the America First mindset and who are trying to focus on the restoration of those core American values, as well as those core tenets of Donald Trumpism. We're talking about strong borders. We're talking about replacing global trade with a new scheme that is anti-NAFTA. We're talking about winding down global conflict. We're talking about American energy independence, et cetera, et cetera. All that stuff that was fundamental to what got him elected in 2016 and again in 2024, making sure that happens. I don't know if she's going to do great at that. I hope so, though, because she's proven so effective at that in the campaign. I hope it sustains. But anyone who went along with that brilliant podcasting strategy where Trump went on to all these mega podcasts towards the end where Kamala was sitting at home doing nothing, she gets immense credit for that. She ran a terrific campaign. So I'm optimistic. I'm very optimistic. I'm told she's tough and smart. I don't think there is any clear-cut person who would have done necessarily a better job. But, there's a lot of new people in the huge tent, which could be hit or miss for Trump. I will tell you, Tulsi Gabbard, Robert Kennedy, Elon Musk, these people are great Americans, but where do they fit in to the Trump cabinet and the Trump agenda? Positioned in the right place, they are massive value add and wildly appealing to getting a new guard of conservatives in line with Trumpism. But if they're positioned in the wrong place, people who are kind of more liberal, they're not really conservative. They might not be America first. If they're in the wrong spot because someone gets to Trump and bends his ear the correct way, that's where I start getting nervous. And that happened quite a bit in the first Trump administration. We've got to be on guard for that. But I have no reason to believe that this is a big setback. And I know that there's a lot of smart conservatives who've come out and congratulated Susie as being one of the best hires. And I love the delicious irony, absolutely delicious irony, that this is an individual who will, let's just let Mark Cuban make the point for me.
Donald Trump, you never see him around strong, intelligent women, ever. It's just that simple. They're intimidating to him. He doesn't like to be challenged by them.
In your face, Mark, in your face. Come on. It's too good. That's delish, right? We love that. And that's it. So that's it. That's where we got. Those are the biggest stories. Looking at these Senate races, Kari Lake is catching up in Arizona. You'll get updates day-to-day, Breitbart.com on that. Sam Brown is falling back in Nevada, whichever. We're not Nevada truthers here. Both work on the show. It's the Californian It was Nevada for a very long time. All of you insisting it's Nevada now. I don't know. And frankly, I don't care. I love the states. Great state. Love Las Vegas. But I will tell you, I'm not going to insist on one pronunciation or the other. The bad news, though, is that it does look like Sam Brown's falling back, and that's sad to me because I think he could have potentially been a terrific senator. I'm optimistic Kari Lake will get in there, which would be truly terrific because it would be such an affront to the establishment press. That is something that I would love. I would love to absolutely see the establishment press have to deal with Kari Lake for the next 6 years. It's almost too good. It's almost too good to think about. All right. Let's go through some of the news that's going on. And one thing that I do want to say on the elections before I expand things a bit. Have you noticed how some states have not been called, even though clearly Trump's going to win them? And why is this? There can be only one answer, right? Is that they want to try to portray it as though his electoral mandate is not as big as it is. That's the only thing I can think of. Why else, when all the evidence is in that Arizona, Nevada in particular, or Nevada, either way, have gone Trump, why wouldn't you just declare it at this point? And I think it's to string it out and to try to make it seem like he's got less of a mandate, try to comfort some people on the left who are obviously losing their minds. We played a lot of clips on yesterday's show. We'll play some more clips in a little bit of lefty meltdowns. But it really is truly a big deal that they're not calling it because it shows you the left is not necessarily learning their lessons. And this is what I'm rooting on. And people are asking me this a lot. I've been doing a lot of press lately to try to promote the show and as always for Breitbart News. And one of the questions I keep getting is, will the left learn the lessons of this election? And I fundamentally don't think so. I think a lot of normal people who vote Democrat might. But of the big lessons, and I won't go through all of them right now, they'll all come up over time. But one of them that is absolutely essential is that the fake news media is not trusted by the American public. Their approval rating has dipped below Congress. We don't trust the establishment press. That's why Trump went around them and went to podcasts. That's why places like Breitbart thrive in these environments, because we are not using the same corporate media filter that the establishment media is doing. And we're more trusted now. We're more powerful now. Our megaphones are more efficient for people to get the message out. You're better off going to a big league podcast on YouTube or Spotify at this point than you are going to one of these gatekeepers at one of the three-letter alphabet network news outlets. And so if these places don't want to call these races, all that does is solidify that they don't get it, that they're too afraid. They're too afraid to stand up to their own people. And this is something that is a beautiful thing that happened in the Republican Party, is that we had our Civil War. I've mentioned this, and I will mention it time and again. After 2012, when the Republican establishment tried to insist the way forward was mass amnesty for illegal aliens, the emerging populist, nationalist, conservative movement, we decided we're going to have a civil war over this. We're going to fight you tooth and nail. We will not be doing this. We will not be the amnesty party. And we won. We won out, and now we're where we are today, building this huge tent with a capital Y. And I don't think the left has got the ability to do it at least this cycle. And that's a huge opportunity for us because it might not just mean an election for Donald Trump. It could mean potentially multiples. We could end up seeing us running a similar playbook in future elections with similar success. And I'll tell you, some people are going to wise up to it, but are they going to figure out how to stop it, how to slow us down? I don't think so. Let's play a clip of Kathy Griffin coming to grips with it. I can't resist. I mean, how could you not play some Kathy Griffin at this time of year? Let's play.
I don't think that our beloved country, America, knows what it's in for with a fascistic society and dictator. I'm not being hyperbolic. I'm not being dramatic. I
mean, they're all fascists, but I'm not being dramatic. I'm being literal. They're literal fascists. And I've studied fascism at the Groundlings in Los Angeles, which is also a comedy troupe. But, that they're really experts on fascists too. I hang out with Kimmel. He knows about fascism.
Have said this on tapes before, but I am shocked and crushed at how many people I personally know did not vote or felt like there was no difference between the candidates or just were too self-involved to learn anything about it. And that makes me sad.
Is she doing this just to bring us joy? I mean, does she know that all she's doing is just feeding the beast? She's feeding the conservative new media beast. The same thing I just talked about that helped deliver the election for Trump. I mean, that she's just giving us this content. It's so wonderful. Thank you, Kathy. Thank you.
Just because I live in California and have a lot of protections other states don't, doesn't mean there won't be a federal ban on abortion. And although I know that's sort of funny, me worrying about abortion, but just being a lifelong feminist, I worry about all of it. And the fact that the boys should be just as worried, because if you're really living in sort of the Trumpian, Christo-fascist, mega church,
Christo-fascist. He was a Democrat, and I don't get the impression Trump is a weekly churchgoer. I think he's been to church. I think he's got a relationship with God, but I don't. He's a Christo-fascist now with Jewish grandchildren, by the way, because his son-in-law, Jared, who he elevated to the top 1 or 2 guys in the White House first time around, is a Jew, committed Jew, and Donald Trump is beloved in the only Jewish state on earth, Israel. And he's the most popular American politician by a mile, 4-1 popularity relative to Kamala Harris. And he is a Christo-fascist, so this is new to me.
I think Trump is stopping child trafficking, QAnon world. Then if your son gets a girl pregnant and they're both 15, then you, of course, will force that they marry and keep having as many Duggars as.
She's so lost. She's so lost. All right, I got more. I can't resist. I got to keep going. Missy, I'm cool to keep doing this, right? This is good.
Okay, you know what? We're going to keep fighting. And, Trump will crumble. I mean, he's not looking too healthy these days. And then President Vance will be terrifying and horrible because he's as crazy as Trump, but he's smart. So, and the way things are going in this country, could then get reelected. We could have.
That's what I wanted. That's
President
the one I
Vance
wanted.
for
They're starting
years.
to see it. They're starting to see the writing on the wall. They're starting to see the worst case scenario, that they've got to get their act together quick because Vance is sitting there. He's warming up in the bullpen, getting loose. Vance, by the way, who calls out Ronald Reagan all the time and has a Indian wife who is not from a right-wing family and is incredibly accomplished in her own right, and he is half Indian children. And it just, why are they allowed to call him these names? He is a salt of the earth American. He's living their version of the American dream. He served his country. He went to Yale Law School. He wrote a best-selling book that liberals loved. Ron Howard made a movie about his life. Isn't this the guy that you would want as president, liberals? Isn't he perfect? Aside from, right, he doesn't hate Trump. So he's not perfect for you. He's terrifying. He's not terrifying. He's a great guy. He's a great guy. That's what's so foreign to them about Vance. That's so weird. He's nice. He likes his wife. His wife and he don't necessarily agree on everything. That's okay, like normal families. So they would rather have someone like a Kamala Harris who, and no one knows what she is or what she stands for. Here's what they're doing, fantasizing over on CNN.
It's actually a very good plan. I think it's something that should happen. Justice Sotomayor has been in.
I'm sorry, I should have prefaced this. Dems are considering putting her on the Supreme Court somehow. They want to try to get her on the Supreme Court really fast.
A more than able justice. I know that she may be having some personal issues that she contends with while serving on the bench. But, I don't want Justice Sotomayor to be another Ruth Bader Ginsburg in terms of staying too long. What does this mean for the dynamic of the court? The court is 6-3 now. If we're able to replace it with a Biden justice, it will still be 6-3. The possibility of Justice Sotomayor having to resign or retire in the next 4 years is extremely high. You couple that with Alito and Clarence Thomas. Yeah. Then that means that you go from a 6-3 court to a 7-2 court in terms of conservative.
All right, so let me give you all the background here. So first of all, we're talking about maybe Sotomayor could step down really fast and try to cram Harris in there as Supreme Court, give her a great role. That's obviously not going to happen in the next 74 days. And then the real fear is that you could get Clarence Thomas or Sam Alito to step down during a Donald Trump administration. It looks like we're going to have a Republican Senate. We are going to, at least for the first 2 years It'll be tougher after 2026, so everyone's got to stay engaged. We cannot back down. The Senate race in 2026 is going to be massive. But if Alito or Thomas bowed out, then again, you could have potentially 5 Trump-appointed young judges. And if Sotomayor had any health issues, it could be 6. That could be decades of dominance on the Supreme Court for conservatives. And that's why you get the long faces there on CNN. But the fantasy that Kamala Harris, who only got into law school based off of affirmative action and was failed the bar the first time and then did not have a strong legal career, it was all astroturf by her campaign. It suggested she was so great in the courtroom. It was all phony baloney. That she should be on the Supreme Court is just pie in the sky stuff from the people just trying to give themselves some consolation. And we enjoy it because they all think we're fascist and evil and racist, etc. All right. Other stuff I want to announce. This is a big one. Liberal women have announced an abstinence campaign following the Trump victory. So they will not be fornicating with men, I guess. And you know what I'm happy with this thing? If this is going to happen, they're swearing off being intimate with men, dating men because they voted for Trump. I have to say it's probably going to lead to fewer abortions. And I'm cool with that. It's fewer abortions, the better. Look, it's not the point of this show, but we probably need a little cultural reset on the way the feminists have normalized, just sanctified, codified, casual fornication. And not a great use of time for most young people, and yet it's very normalized, very encouraged. And I think it's something that probably on a later show we could delve into in more detail. But if this is going to be something that's going to cut down on that a little bit, then I'm all for it. But could you imagine if you're one of these men who would be victimized by this? You want to make a list of people who I would not like to have a beer with? It's any man who's going to get punished because they've got the type of woman who would throw this sort of a tantrum after the election didn't go their way. Elections don't always go your way. It's part of life. I live in California. Every governor race doesn't go my way. I have Senator Pencilneck now. I didn't cry because I have Senator Pencilneck. That's terrible. He's going to be the worst senator no one deserves to be senator less in this country than Pencilneck. And he's my senator now. It's terrible. It doesn't mean I'm going to, withhold something from someone because of that. Grow up. This is what's so noteworthy with all this. Is that there's no resilience. There's no resilience that is being taught amongst the left. The left just is not, they're not there. The left does not want to have a resilient society. The left wants us to have a society of snowflakes because that allows them to be controlled easier. One such snowflake is Hope Wiles, which is Tim Walz' daughter, who is an adult. So I don't mind picking on her a little bit. She's out there. Let's see what she's got to say post-election.
Just have a couple initial post-election thoughts. I've officially reached a point of anger, and I'm not an angry person, so I'm just trying to channel it. The first one being,
first of all, I don't think it's helpful to just talk like this. When you're talking, just talk, please, and you don't have to talk like this. Too annoying for me.
This country does not deserve Kamala Harris. That woman should go live her best life wherever she wants, doing whatever she wants, because we don't deserve her at this point. The only people that delivered this election were Black women, and we failed them. And it's just heartbreaking, and we've got to do whatever we can to support them and support our people through these next 4 years.
It just, what would support them, Hope, is if we brought down the price of energy, and if the next time there's rioting in Black neighborhoods, then maybe your dad, the governor, will do something about it to help the law-abiding citizens. Or maybe if I say it like this, he should help the law-abiding citizens. Maybe it will convince you.
Another one is these people have to live in their own skin, as in J.D. Vance and Donald Trump have to be J.D. Vance and Donald Trump. And that is not a punishment I would wish upon anybody except those two individuals. So I'm just really grateful that I am who I am and that I'm on the side of love and hope and joy and progress.
Yeah, I would like to contrast that statement with the photo of Trump accepting victory with his gorgeous family. That blows me away every time. You cannot have more well-adjusted adult children than Donald Trump. This is the biggest sign that he really is a special guy to me. And this was one of the things that very early on tipped me off that he was going to be the real deal and not some sort of a charlatan, is looking at that family that he's built, and it's growing family. He's got 5 children. He's got good relationships with all of them. They all have really impressive spouses. It blows you away that the type of family he's pieced together, along with all of his businesses, his political endeavors, his TV endeavors. JD Vance, the same way, super impressive family. These are happy people. These people love this country. And what's interesting to me about this clip is that it's mostly typical Gen Z whining that you get. Not say all Gen Z are whiners, but it's just what it sounds like when they do. It's self-indulgent TikTok stuff. But what's interesting is how bubbled she remained. Her dad is running for vice president, once in a lifetime shot. It's not going to happen again for him. And she didn't even bother to figure out what the other side's all about. That's a cosmic laziness. And I don't think we necessarily have that on the right. I think we are much more inclined to see what they're up to. All right. And let's continue. Okay. Democrat Eric Adams announcing that New York City is no longer going to be issuing vouchers to illegal aliens. This is one of these things where good news is starting to flow. A lot of the bad guys are coming to heel. They're starting to understand that this is going to be Donald Trump's America. The rules are going to change. Adams knew the illegal immigration issue was a problem. He had to deal with his own party. I think that's part of why he has been the target of legal scrutiny, is because he's been willing to buck his party, at least announcing that the illegal immigration that's happening and legal aliens getting flooded in New York City was an issue. And now we're seeing he's going to crack down on this program. This is going to try to make asylum seekers. He wants to have a renewed approach where there's more thorough vetting for people to be able to get benefits from U.S. taxpayers and our government. More good news. Jack Smith has asked Judge Tanya Chutkin to end the January the 6th case against Trump. He saw the writing on the wall. He's asked for all the deadlines to be removed. He's moving on with his life. And he should. What's going to happen to him if he keeps going? He's going to waste time. So he could waste a couple more months. He could waste another 2.5 months. And then he's just going to be a bigger target for people like me. He'll be a big target anyway. Trust me, we're not going to forget. But he'll be a bigger target for people like me in the media when Donald Trump is sworn in January. Here's a big one. This is a more joy for us. Democrats vaporize over $2.1 billion in losing effort against Donald Trump. Harris raised a record amount of money, and somehow the campaign ended $20 million in debt in the final week. Isn't that awesome? Record amount of money. They lit it all on fire. I was telling you, so many of the ads that were programmatic in my feeds were, the Colin Allred seat in Texas, which Cruz won by, I think, almost 10 points. And it was, I don't know what the calculus was. Maybe they would have some down ticket stuff, some coattails if he was close, but Cruz won by a lot. And I'm not even in Texas. But I was targeted with all these ads. This stuff is very expensive. Very expensive. And then you see stuff like Trump carrying a 97% Hispanic Texas border county. This county hasn't voted for Democrats since 1986. This is a unbelievable thing in Starr County, Texas. Thank you, Starr County, Texas. And the Harris Walls only brought in 41% of the vote. 97% Hispanic. They get it. They're starting to understand that Trump could bring more global peace. Only guy where wars recessed during his administration in recent modern presidencies. It's been forever since this has happened. And I think Zelensky gets it. I think Putin gets it. I think everyone in the Middle East gets it. And I think Mexico is going to get it. I think those Northern Triangle countries are going to get it. I think Bukele gets it. And this is something that could be a true added piece of his legacy that could be absolutely sensational if we are to see any level of success from Donald Trump. And I think we will. I absolutely think we will at this point. All right. I want to get to all right. I got, there's so many more good clips, but I want to get to emails. Okay. I'll play a couple more clips. I can't resist.
Particularly the media ecosystem it's not a good one. It's a negative one. It's a radicalization funnel. But what they have done in their online media ecosystem is build a radicalization engine, literally the way militant groups do around the world, that takes people from relatively low-level annoyances with the world. Why are eggs so expensive? Why is my kid learning this new thing in American history in school that I didn't learn? and then moves them through YouTube videos, through podcasts, moves them from that annoyance all the way slowly to a full-blown fascist politics.
Okay, so this guy, this MSNBC you're listening to, and I don't know this guy's name. It doesn't even show up on the screen. I tried to look it up quickly, but I'll tell you, he looks just like one of the villains from The Incredibles. So if you want to look up I think some of you will know what I'm talking about. I don't know what his name is, but he does this spiky white hair thing. And this is the sort of demonization and fear mongering that's rooted in, it's just baloney. It's just flat out bogus. And I love to hear them say this stuff because it shows that they're clueless. They don't understand that the prices of eggs is not a small issue. It's the try having a family of 6. In fact, I got 7 people live in my house. This is not a small issue for all Americans. Stuff adds up. And this plutocracy, the people who are on MSNBC doing punditry, they don't understand this. This is a major issue. And to act like it's just some sort of a funnel where we try to get them in the crib and then indoctrinate them in fascist YouTube. All these YouTubers are actually apolitical. They just lean towards Trump because he's real. He's authentic, and he speaks towards issues that matter towards most Americans. I was highly critical of Joe Rogan for holding out to the last second to endorse Trump. Joe Rogan speaks to a generation of anti-woke males, and he wouldn't come out and just say Trump's the guy. Theo Von, I've been listening to Theo Von, the podcaster and comedian, for a long time. I always knew he was understanding of our side, but he's not a political guy. These are just people who have big platforms they don't need to play by the rules that MSNBC and NBC, Comcast, Universal has spelled out for them. And whoever this cartoon character is on my TV. It's an elaborate multi-billion-dollar infrastructure, and there is nothing like it on the pro-democracy side. We don't have when a man is just lost and lonely. These guys canceled their primary. They rigged the primary for Hillary Clinton against Bernie Sanders. They rigged the primary for Joe Biden. And then they kicked Joe Biden out, and 3 people, Laureen Powell Jobs, Nancy Pelosi and Barack Obama, installed Kamala Harris, and she got whooped. What are you talking about? Stop saying that. It doesn't work for you. Not yet radicalized. We don't have the equivalent of Joe Rogan and Jordan Peterson to move that man in a feminist direction. By the way, we should educate men that it's actually... He's got CBS, he's got NBC, he's got ABC, he's got the New York Times, he's got the Washington Post. What is it? What more do you want? You got every major paper, you've got every major network. Even the tech platforms are all, they're coming around because they see the writings on the wall, but they're all sympathetic to your worldview. TikTok's a Chinese spy app. I think Republicans are competing on TikTok. We just started. We got like 3 people. We got John McEntee. You got Trump. Who else? Are there any right-wing TikTokers? 2 or 3 others, maybe? Like what? This is just such a lie. Our ideas are better. And if this is how they're going to process it, we are going to keep winning. We're going to run up the score. It's actually really great to live with a strong woman who makes money. It's actually easier. Life is easier. But I think... I don't understand this. Like I'm married to a board certified oncologist. Like what is this thing? You think Melania Trump's not a smart woman? She speaks 5 languages. She's an international superstar. What is this? Susie Wiles' first appointment? If this is all they got, the politics of identity politics, the same DEI stuff's ruining our corporations. Bring it on. This is what we want. This is what we want. Because we're going to continue to dominate. We're going to continue to add to our coalition if this is how they're talking. And so I honestly hope none of them listen to the show. I really hope not, because I can help them if they listen, but they won't listen. And that's great. All right. I'm taking your emails at aloha@alexmarlow.com. And I got a ton. I'm very happy to say we have far more than I can answer in a given show, but please keep, it means a lot to me just that you're paying attention and you're engaging with the content. You can be critical, you can be disappointed, you could be thrilled, you could be amused, whatever it is. I just want you to take what I got and enjoy it and appreciate it. Feel free to disagree. This is supposed to be entertaining and a community experience. Let's hear from, this is Dale Dollinger emails. First, I've been an avid Breitbart reader for years. Best information on the net, I agree. Listen to your podcast today and will be a daily listener going forward. Nice. I appreciate that. Question and maybe suggestion for future content. I'm a 65-year-old, grew up during the Cold War. Soviet Union was mortal enemy number 1. They were engaged and defeated as a threat to America and the world. They've been mostly a non-threat since their collapse until recently. They must be soundly defeated again, and they will be emboldened to continue, or they'll be emboldened to continue. As they say, the enemy of the enemy is my friend. It's not better to defeat them again in Ukraine militarily and economically and preserve peace and safety for the next generation, ? Expensive, yes, but maybe a worthy investment. I see this as America first and keep America great. I'm open to being wrong, but I really would like a coherent explanation. This is one where I should probably bring in guests and have a longer form discussion when the dust settles. But my initial take on this crisis is that in order to try to defeat the USSR, Soviet Union, Russia, whatever it is likely going to cost countless levels of blood and treasure. I have no confidence that the increasingly DEI American military would be able to do it efficiently. I have no faith in the consultant class that is funneling money to our defense contractors would do it efficiently. And I have every reason to believe Americans are going to die and it might not necessarily work. So as much as I've never liked Putin, you can go back to the days of Breitbart. There's no begrudging respect. There's nothing, I don't have nice stuff to say about Putin. I'm not one of those people on the right who does that. But I will tell you that I think that it's a mistake to try to defeat him. I think bringing a peace to the region is a negotiated peace is the way to go. And I think that that's why Zelensky was so excited about Trump's victory, because he understands he's not going to defeat Putin. NATO is feckless without the United States of America. We don't want Ukraine in NATO because that guarantees basically nuclear war with Putin. We don't want that stuff. So I would love to see Russia weakened on the global stage, but sometimes strong nations make good neighbors. And if we are able to be the alpha in the relationship, that could be the best of all worlds, to let them do their thing. But if we can keep them at bay and we can restore law and order and peace into the region with a negotiation done by the ultimate negotiator, Donald Trump, I'm optimistic this is by far the best scenario, and it will come up immediately. So we'll come back to this topic. All right. Greg Vergara emails, Alex, I'm so glad you're back, quote unquote, on the air. Yeah, it is quote unquote. That makes sense. I've missed your brilliant analysis and commentary more than I even realized. Thank you. I know I've disagreed with you from time to time over the years and even fired off emails expressing my disagreement, but I can honestly say I am an ant compared to your intellect and intuition. You've a guaranteed lifetime subscription from me, brother. Now, I'll tell you something. You guys are not ants, and that's part of my secret sauce and why I've done so well in my life is I have deep respect for the listeners, and I'm accountable to you, and I will always talk up to you, and I will never belittle you or talk down to you. It'll never happen, and because I don't believe it. It's genuine thought. I'm much more interested in what you guys have to say than all of the chuckleheads over at all of the major newsrooms and news networks combined. You guys are better to me, and I have deep respect for this audience. But I highlight this one because he disagrees with me and sticks with me. And I ask all of you to consider that because I think that I'm a good person to disagree with. It's fun. We can have fun disagreeing. It's not going to get angry. And we'll disappoint one another from time to time, but it's all good. All right, dear Alex, welcome back. It was great to listen to your inaugural podcast. And I look forward to your future periodic joining Breitbart News Daily, which is still up and running with the great Mike Slater. I wish all of you the best with this new chapter in your career, and welcome to the 4-Child Club. Once you start playing zone defense, you can just keep going. I had to bring that up. The zone defense, exactly right. There's a peace that comes with having child number 4 because you accept you'll be imperfect. There's no way that all of them can get all the attention they need and deserve at the same time. So you have to run a zone defense. You have to get creative. You have to get help, and you have to come to terms with your own imperfections and mortality. And it's a very humbling process. That is a truly humbling process. All right, this will be the last one for today. Hey, Alex, glad to hear the new podcast. I've listened to the first 2 episodes. I'm hooked. I'm missing hearing you on Patriot every morning. I started listening when Trump won 2016. My question is, the left cannot be allowed to get away with all the ways they've tried to persecute Trump and other conservatives, Kavanaugh, Clarence Thomas, etc. Trump has to make sure that the people who have been using lawfare and other means to try to prevent him from taking office and ramping up rhetoric that encourages assassination attempts on him be brought to justice and not be let off the hook the way he let Hillary off the hook. The left needs to get the message that they can't get away with it so it never happens again to anyone else. How do you think he can accomplish this without legitimizing the left's assertion that he's a fascist Nazi dictator who is only out to get retribution against his political opponents? One of the most important questions he's going to have to answer, because he's going to have to somehow be unifying and honor those people who suffered, honor those people who either lost their freedom, who lost their businesses, who were targeted by the lawfare simply for being Donald Trump family members, Donald Trump himself, or Donald Trump supporters. This is a reality, and we're going to have to sort this out, and there's not an easy answer. Because a lot of people on the left, a lot of those people who are crying on TikTok these days, they are hoping that some of us come up and say, we're going to be kind, we're going to be polite, we're going to move ahead. That is not entirely appropriate response, given the intensity of the attacks on Donald Trump and his supporters. They called us garbage. They ruined our businesses. They took away those of us who are in the media. They tried to take away our advertisers. They targeted us on a personal level. They tried to take food out of our families' mouths. And this cannot be forgotten, and these people have to be held accountable. We need to make examples of them. We don't have to be mean. We don't have to shout when we do it, but these people have to be held accountable. Accountability is crucial. We do not have a society that moves forward without accountability. And the people who are part of the problem need to be identified, and they need to be isolated. Not for violence and not for anything illegitimate. You don't lock them up just for disagreeing. But if they've done something illegal, they need to be brought to justice. And if they've done something immoral, they need to be flagged and called out in the public eye. But it's incumbent upon us to articulate why these things are happening and to pick our spots wisely so we don't get taken out of context. So we have to be meticulous in how we choose our targets. And I'll tell you, this can be done. We do this at Breitbart News. No one punches harder than Breitbart News, but we don't usually take the first swing. We wait for some slight to be done that is clear and obvious, and then we take our swings. This is how we've always done it in the Breitbart newsroom, and it's why we've been so powerful. That's the tactic that needs to be applied by Donald Trump and his administration. If he can do that, then he can thread this needle. He really can. It's going to be tough, but it's important. The people who were the worst during the Trump years cannot be forgotten. We can't forget them. But that said, if we make examples out of them to an extent where it hurts the greater good, then it's probably not worth it. And we got to pick our spots there. So a fantastic question, and one will certainly come up case by case as certain people get back into the limelight as things settle down. But that's fantastic stuff. Thank you very much to our wonderful producer, Misty, the wonderful Salem News Network. I'll tell you, we're posting content on Breitbart social media pages at We Are Breitbart. The show is available on YouTube, Rumble, if you want to see how it looks. Please subscribe on iTunes and Spotify. I guess it's called Apple Podcast now. Those 5-star reviews, those comments, those are all engagements for us. It helps the podcast grow. We got to hit these algorithms, get on people's radar. The faster we grow, the bigger we can get. And it means a lot to me. We're off to a terrific start. All thanks to you. I'm just one guy. I've got some family members who listen, but that's not going to be enough. You don't get to 27,000 views plus on the first episode without some help. So all of you guys being out there sharing what I'm doing, it means a lot to me, and it's only going to make the show better. That's it for this Hawaiian Shirt Friday, and we'll talk to you next time. Thanks for listening.